Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining our Global Light Bridge Zoom Live. Our guest tonight is Dr. Alex Stratigakis, and the lecture is Conscious Education, a Driver of the Ascension Process. So Alexa is our moderator. She's going to tell you how everything's going to work. Alexa?
We are going to do just a little intro right now. Alex is going to talk a little bit about how he got this, what he's going to share today, and then he will just go, and we will go for about 50 minutes. And I'll give a heads up that it's been 50 minutes. And then he'll have about another, kind of 10 minutes to share. And then any questions that you all have, we'll have about 15 minutes or so to ask questions. So if you want, you can put questions in the chat. And either way, we can address them at that moment, or we can do them at the end as well. So if you want to put it in the chat so that, you don't have to keep it in your mind, that would be great. So.
I'm Alex Stratigakis, and the title of my presentation tonight is about conscious education as a driver of the ascension process. I believe as we move forward from a system that is failing, and it's failing totally at this point, we need to go through various educational steps. This is not a process that you just go to bed one night and you wake up next morning and you say, I'm already in the fifth dimension. It is so good. We are going to have to do the work down here in order to get to the level of being in a position to receive help, because we need help. We cannot do this all by ourselves. How this happened? This process for me, it started a long time ago. I was not conscious at the time why I was taken from company to company, working as an engineer, and then all of a sudden I was introduced to projects without a conscious understanding why, because the main body of knowledge was developed in the 90s. And quite frankly, looking back, I was not qualified experience-wise. Education, yes, but not experience-wise to be involved in projects of that magnitude that required a lot more experience than mine. But somehow, and I do not know how, somebody was guiding my steps, and I would find myself from project to project to project. You can understand that I had also a regular job to do above and beyond those, and my head was in the sand in order to learn the technology that I was involved at the time, plus do all those extra things that the companies wanted to do at the time. To make a long story short, we were going through the 90s. I hadn't connected all the pieces together by that time. But after I moved on and I went to work in Silicon Valley for various high-tech companies over there, and in 2002, it was a very significant year, and the whole high-tech world collapsed. Then slowly I started putting things together, and some of the pieces, they were not complete, and I work to complete them, and things of that nature. It took a very long time for me to get to this point, and what I will show you tonight are pieces of what the people start using the word ecosystem, but it will be known more as ecosystems around the United States and around the globe. So I'm very grateful that I'm here tonight, and whatever power helped me over a 30-year period to acquire this knowledge, I'm beyond grateful, because they also show me that there is an audience for it. And I had to wait for the audience for a long, long time in a conscious way. That is another story, though. So that is as far as the background. Please let me know when I get started with my presentation, and we're going to move on.
I think
Alexa,
it's great
okay?
to go now. Yeah,
Okay, good.
take it away.
So, I would like to start with some concepts that they are not exactly new, but our thoughts are frequencies, our emotions are vibrations, and frequency measures how fast our emotions vibrate, oscillate, in other words. Now, if we try to pictorialize those phrases, we're going to come up with a waveform like this. I do have some yellow lines on my screen, and the name Alberto is surfacing. Do you see the lines?
I do see the lines, and I'm not sure.
I do not know where they're coming from, but I saw, I saw Alberto's name surfacing on my screen. So I do not know what else
I
to say.
think
Okay.
I've seen this before because it's in multi-share mode. It's if somebody happens to do something, if you wanted to unshare and then share again, I think those lines go away if they're bugging you.
No, it doesn't bother me. I don't want to bother you.
Okay. Okay.
But for me, it's fine.
Okay.
Okay, from here then, we can expand this concept a little bit more, and we can look at the amplitude of the waveform, which is really the human emotions, and how frequently the waveform intersects the line of consciousness, the line of convergence, the line of truth. This idea, particularly now, it's very important because the waveform is the signature of every single individual. And we're in a position now that we interpret things differently, we argue a lot, and we have a very difficult time to get together. So for me personally, instead of trying to verbalize all these things with words, which is very difficult to communicate the concepts, how would you collaborate and what kind of mechanisms and tools you need to use in order to pretty much align the people in movement towards in a certain direction? I see the waveforms, the exact translation of the waveforms as consciousness. So as we move forward, I make statements all the time. Watch the wave, watch the wave, watch the wave. What does it mean? Be very mindful of the collective consciousness. You don't want the wave to collapse, and therefore you don't want the wave to the consciousness to collapse either. The consciousness in the United States is 225 hertz. There is a couple in Florida that they measure that. The consciousness in Africa is at the level of fear, which is 100 hertz. So from there now, when the soul comes down on the earth, basically it's energy. And what I'm trying to say is for anyone and everyone who's trying to come over here to get his life lessons is I quantum, which is my energy is coming down here on the 3D plane. I'm going to get a bodysuit, and then I will start my experience. Now, the experience down here, it starts with our schooling. At the beginning, we're engaged in activities, small projects with guidance, and possibly based on self-awareness, self-examination, and also start building some self-confidence in what it is we do. As we're advancing now into our education system, as the education system stands here on the 3D Earth, we're engaged in activities, more advanced activities, projects with less guidance, more relying on self-awareness, self-examination, and self-confidence. I am practicing this at the level I'm in now, and I have come up with ways to measure it. So from there, then, we say we got to the point now, we got a skill set, we've got to go somewhere and exercise it. at this moment, very peculiar things happen at that intersection. What are those? The people trying to enter the workforce. And in the workforce, we already have the millennials. And we have the Gen X very well entrenched into our workforce. And of course, you have baby boomers as well. And then the Gen Zers are coming about, which are very, very different people. They think very differently. And the ones they have gone into the workforce to work for companies, I have tracked loads of data from the companies themselves that I talk to them all the time, that they say, what kind of people are those? We basically cannot understand them. They just, if there is a problem, they don't discuss it. Next thing we know, they come up in their cubicle, pick up their stuff and leave. No explanations, no notice, nothing. So when somebody hires somebody, it's an investment from the company to that individual. And therefore they expect to be trained, to listen, to work well in teams and all of that stuff. But these people in 6 months to a year, they leave. And therefore the companies, they're very hesitant to make that investment. So the main idea now is this. This is a phenomenon which spread throughout the country, and now they gave it a name. They call it quiet quitting. The quiet quitting, though, it's not only from the Gen Zers. And it's not I go and pick up my stuff and I leave. It has to do with people that choose to stay, do as little as possible to collect their paycheck because they have responsibilities. And they don't want to help the company at all or anything else. And that is with the Gen Zers, a lot more with the millennials. Now that spreads into Generation X. Generation X is an extremely important generation, particularly at this time, because they're supposed to give the guidance and the push, the movement forward to the entire Generation Z, who they gave birth to. Okay, so now what is exactly the problem? This is the current structure of the people that they find themselves in. You have customers, you have product architecture, you have traditional project management, you have HR function.
Yeah.
Okay, Alex is frozen at the moment. Hopefully he'll be back in just a moment.
All right, I see him. We'll start sharing that again.
Wonder how many windows he has open.
You're muted. You're muted, Alex. There you go.
And then let me share again.
There we go.
Can you see it?
Transition to 5D.
No, that's not what I want. Let me stop. Let me start again. Share. Why not happen? Oh,
See, you just wanted to get rid of those lines.
Oh, and it did happen. Wow. It did happen. Okay. Okay, I want screen number 3. There. There. Are we there now?
Yes, we're back to where we were.
Okay, good. So those people, they have their training, whatever that is, and they go to work in an environment which is set up like this. It is all fragmented, but that was set up like this a long time ago, and it served its time for several years. I grew up in this environment ever since I went to work in the technology world. And it discomforted me also, but I was raised in a way that says you do what they tell you and don't complain. So This is what it is. But this environment, it doesn't suit for many people. What are we talking about? Gen Z is about 65 million people. The millennials are 70 million people, and they don't fit there either. So what exactly is happening in here? There is a problem. Oops. There is a problem, and the problem is not realized by me, is realized by many people. It got to the point now that we have spent time and money to trying to fix this, and we can't. So we got to the point now that the people says, okay, since we cannot do it, we globalized and failed, and we got some cost benefits out of it. So we're going to be coming back to the United States. We're going to have to fix this. Therefore, we are going to turn into AI to help us to do it. And we're talking about not some people from the street. We're talking about senior executives in various high-tech companies and also full professors from the academia in the business school that we got together and they told me exactly what they were trying to do. And I was trying to be respectful, not just fall on the ground laughing. So what happens here? As we have this architecture for the enterprise, they went down here where the cost models are. They pick up the data from the cost models. And they took the data into the AI and expected them, AI, to give them answers of how to fix the company. Mind you, that this cost structure has never been connected with the assets of the company. So it's a very simple question that I asked them. I says, can you predict the output of the product or the service that they give to the customer? They said, no. Well, if you cannot predict the performance, can you predict the costs associated with the delivery of the product or the service? I said, apparently not. So they went ahead, they did this, and they brought me the results. And the results was noise in, noise out. And therefore, they came to the conclusion that something is wrong, something is very wrong in here. Because we have been utilizing this data, I mean, this cost models for 40 years. And as an executive myself, I use them too. I had to. That's the only data set the companies that I work for provided. So my perspective was, this is not the right data. It was shocking to them. And if this is not the right data, where are the right data? The right data are down here. Can you see my screen? Yes? Okay, good. The right data is down here where the assets of the company are. They do not know how to measure the capability, and the costs are separate from the capability of the assets. To go back and fix this, you have to re-educate the entire workforce of the nation and all the management team and change the curriculum in the business school, which is something which is not going to happen. So AI is not going to help them. And I told them straight, and I gave the reasons why it cannot help them. We used the same data set all throughout my career, and I told them that. And the only decision we ever made utilizing that data, it was what? Hire and fire people. Why do you expect AI to tell you something different? And it won't. So that's that. With that then in mind, the problem remains. You have to fix the silos of the enterprise, and you have to connect them together in order to have a cohesive system. From there, I'm trained my own by the students in my immediate sphere of influence. It was last summer that I released this to the world because I believe in them. To the world, you might be one person, but to one person, myself, you are the world, the new world. Now, the response that I received, it was very emotional, but the response that I received from the cosmos, it was something bigger. To that, the code 369 was attached to it. 3 stands for the power of creation. 6, the power of energy. And 9, the power of completion. And the message was directly to me. Help them to transition away from memorization and move into more into manifestation. So that generation here cannot be here to memorize and go and take a test. It is not for them. It doesn't work for them. So they have to move into applying the skills in an environment that will allow them to apply the skills. And the current environment we have, it doesn't do that. So there is a problem. And the problem as we go forward, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger because it goes beyond one generation. Now, if this, what we have in here, it doesn't work, can we lift the veil to look on the other side and prepare the people to transition into something else, which they cannot see at this point? The only thing they know is what we have, it doesn't work. So, with that in mind, I would like to offer you this, and I have personal experience in this. We need to identify our value system. That's not a new concept. Align human emotions and feelings with individual goals and purpose. And there are mechanics to do it. I have gone through this 3 times in the industry on a personal level. I know how it works. And very recently, 3 Tuesdays ago, they hired a consultant to come in and educate all the faculty and staff one Tuesday, 3 Tuesdays ago, for the whole day, how to do exactly this. So for me, the picture was complete from a point of view of knowledge creation. To my peers, they have never seen anything like this, so it was all new. What happens? They give you a set of either cards or a table with various value words in there, and you go in and you choose which are the ones you relate more. And there will be several. Then they are asking, and they did ask us to group them into groups, and the groups not to be more than 5, which is exactly the number that the consultants use in the industry as well. Because if you have more than 5, then the problem becomes more complex. And what happens in here is you individualize, prioritize the value cards. What is more important to you to what is less important to you. You develop, discover individual value system, which is personal to you. Align individuals with their value system. That's the vertical alignment now. And then create their own individual value and mission statements. Every one has to have its own. So what we did do then, each one of us did it, and then there were 5, 6 people in a table. They said, okay, why don't you come together and see if 5, 6 people that you're in this table, you can mix your value cards and you can come up with a set of value cards, 5 value cards that they are common to all of you, but you have to agree to it. And the table that I was in, very good people. I knew them. It was a very easy exercise. We did consolidate everything down to 5 cards. And that's where the vertical alignment occur now on our value system for that table. How the other tables did, how the other people did, I had no idea. So then what happens here? I claim when you're vertically aligned with yourself and vertically aligned through common values with a group of people, the horizontal alignment will occur at the same time. So now we go into the enterprise. how does that look like? It's not here yet. What we have, it doesn't work. That's the only thing we know. You're going to have customers. They're going to deliver products and services. You're going to have assets, product design, manufacturing, supply chain, but you're going to measure the capability of those assets. That is a huge difference from what we have now. You're going to have HR, and you're going to have project management, and you're going to have financial tooling in order for you to manage the assets as well as report. So now we fix the value system outside the company. Each one of us had a value emission statement and a value statement, and that would map with the mission, the value statement of the organization we were in or at the company at large. Now you start entering into the company itself. Now, when you're working for a company, you have a job descriptions broken down into tasks. You're going to have to align the tasks with the corporate objectives. That process starts, and I have personal experience in it as well. So how that works. Task 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. An individual has, according to his job description, it performs those tasks. He aligns those maps, if you will, those tasks with the corporate objectives of the company that he works for. Now, objective 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, those objectives, they have precisely defined from weak to strong. There is no if, buts, nothing about it. And then the company is big, it has business units. You do the same thing at the business unit level. That is the so-called vertical alignment now, on a task-by-task basis with the corporate objectives and the business unit objectives. Now, depending on the company is big enough, is going to have business units, and you do the same exercise there, but it's a lot more difficult because you have to find out about 4 or 5 common objectives that all the business units relate to, and then map the tasks of the people on all business units up against the same characteristics. That's where now you have the so-called horizontal alignment. It so happens, and I do not care who defines performance, the customer requirements in any company, in any technology, analog, digital, product, service, any country, it doesn't matter, always are driven horizontally throughout the company, any company. That is the definition of performance, not making money. If you're horizontally aligned, you will be making the money, and you will be delivering the product on time, and you will have the profit margin you need in order to sustain yourself as a business. When you collect the data set in here, this is how you collect it. The individual contributor evaluates itself up against the grid for each one of the corporate objectives, which is very well defined from weak to strong. The manager is doing the same thing. So that's where the whole thing is moving from subjectiveness into objectiveness through alignment. That thing is not happening here on the 3D Earth. From there, when that happens, it depends on the organization, can have 500,000 people, 50,000. You collect the data and you create it's a normal distribution from my experience with the individual contributor's point of view. Then you have the management's point of view. You compare them. You see the difference between the means, and that's what defines the gap inside the company. When I move on to Silicon Valley, I expanded this. I took the difference between these 2 points of views because you will improve, but you will never make them the same. Why? Because you're having apples and oranges, and you cannot make apples and oranges be exactly the same. No. So I took the difference between the two, and then I create another distribution. It has a mean and a variance. What does it mean? The variance in here is of extreme importance because it means the degree of alignment between expectation versus capability, which is a spiritual definition of a measurement that occurs on the 3D Earth, directly translated from the quantum field. In the quantum field, everything is vertically and horizontally aligned. You don't have silos over there, none of that. So this is translated, captured, measured, and managed. So the role of the company is to become better at assigning operational goals to the people that work for them, and at the same time to help them to enhance their skills to better meet their objectives. You don't hire and fire over here. You grow.
Alex,
Yes.
so just to help others
Mhm.
bring this into a perspective that it's a little easier for them to digest.
Oh, okay.
What I see that, pardon my interruption,
No,
what I
no,
see is that you're describing the same alignment that happens in the universe, but now you're applying it to both the educational aspect, the skill aspect of the employees, and then also the corporate operational aspect.
everything.
And what
It
you're
is
describing as a wave, let's say, if you have people who have when you describe originally for the students or the workers to have common goals, to sit down. You mentioned the group of five and get them to come together on some commonality on their personal goals. In other words, finding the point of resonance, and you're describing that through the waves.
yes. Yeah.
And then once you have that, get the corporation also to be able to have a point of resonance, and then of course matching in the two of them. So in this case, when you're talking about the resonance, you're talking about pretty much the way they are, what they would
Yes.
like, and it's because we see a person and we just see a person standing there. We don't, but the universe doesn't see that. The universe sees a resonance.
That's right.
So I'm just bringing together the graphs that you have with the comments you've been making, and you've been building from the educational side all the way to the corporate side in a much more cohesive form, which would be the way the universe would have done it if he would have done it in the first place instead of us. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Direct translation from the quantum field into the 3D plane with measurements and give it a spiritual definition to it. Now, we're going to have to take all of that and put it into, if it is possible to put it into the new enterprise. So what are we saying in here? We talked very, very good summary and at the very, very right point, Alberto. In here, we have done the alignment of individuals outside the company. We did the alignment within the company, and we are bringing the human emotions together. Now, what happens here is when they work for the company, you map the individual value statement with the value statement of the company. Align their tasks with the corporate goals, which is the vertical alignment. Align their tasks with the common goals of other business units, horizontal alignment. Values of individuals, values of companies, tasks of individuals, and company goals are all vertically and horizontally aligned, which leads into the next concept. That is an investment that the people have done it in themselves and the company has done it as a whole. This is the return on investment in consciousness, which is the highest form of technology in the universe. Direct translation from the quantum field down here where we're at. The challenge for me and for a lot of other people is the verbiage. How do you receive it? How are you going to operationalize it? Do it, make the measurements, interpret it, and then find the verbiage in order to communicate.
So,
Okay?
Alex,
Yes.
this is basically having people follow their highest joy. Following what
Yes.
the joy is and aligning it into the company, right? So that
Yes.
you've got real energy behind it.
Yes.
Not the house of cards.
Yeah. Beautifully said. More translation to it. Yes. Very good. Very good. Very good. Now, we go down here and you say, okay, who's going to do what? I mean, the companies are not structured that way. You're talking vertical and horizontal alignment. We're not doing it. Who's going to do it? Okay, that goes into HR. HR is no longer a function in the company that sits on the side and pays attention to rules, regulations, and if the company does things legally, not in an obvious way to abuse the people, but they have no power. The vertical and horizontal alignment gives them the authority to have a seat at the table. The seat at the table is what? When you're making the operation decisions. Because the goal over here is not to hire and fire in order to short-term fix your finances. It's something bigger than that. You have to grow the company and you have to grow the people. So their position within the company changes. Because the gap analysis also has been translated into a spiritual concept, that goes into project management, which traditionally tracks tasks in terms of cost and timing. And therefore, project managing is going to operationalize the spiritual interpretation of the gap analysis in the entire company, any technology, any country. Then you're going to have new financial tooling, which will allow you to capture the capability of the assets and therefore manage the capability of the assets instead of just reporting. From there now, we go to another box in the system, which provides funding for all projects or companies, for profit, nonprofit, anything, everything. So the energy goes into that institution. Quantum. I found myself again, but in a different box. Why? These people are dealing with money. Are these people having tasks that are aligned with the goals of their institution? And what is the goal of the institution? How do they invest the money? What expectations they have from the money they invest? Personal experience on this. I witnessed it with my own eyes, and it was brought down to the products I designed, and they went into manufacturing. And they were making money, some more, some less. Therefore, the financial success of the product, it was varying, but that's okay. They made money. I work on other projects that never went to manufacturing. We spend money, but we never make a dime out of it. That's facts of life. So now what happened in here? The energy of money. It was brought to the entire organization a new formula, which said economic value added model. Return on invested capital minus the cost of capital times the average invested capital. Very simple equation, but it has its own complexities. What is the complexity now? You have to manage the spread, which means what? As a company, when you borrow money, at the end of the year, you have to at least meet the cost of capital. We started positive at the beginning of the year. We were losing ground towards the middle of the year, and towards the end, we were negative. And the senior people in the company, they were extremely upset. Again, my personal experience in here. So how that works? If you bring it down to the assets, you have in here the operating decisions, sales growth, profit margin, tax rates. In here, you have the working capital, fixed capital. Those two are interrelated. You go over here and you had the financing of the company. Who does it? How is it done? And what kind of expectations do you have? That's the financing decisions. If you take a look in here, this is separate. How it can be? Here are the assets. You do not care about the capability of the assets. No, I will give you money, and the agreement is at the end of the year, you will give back 20%. Greed, 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 greed to no end. Okay, that came down to me in my products, and this is what will start happening in front of my own eyes. The company, it will start splitting itself. The assets and the financing leg of the company. That was happening in Northeast. I went to Silicon Valley, it was happening there. So all of a sudden, in front of my own eyes, I could see the splitting of the economy into two parts, the Wall Street economy and then the mainstream economy. And because in 2002, we globalized the assets, we took the sales system around the world, and I witness the splitting of the economy around the world. The gap between the two is so big now, it cannot be managed, it cannot be fixed. Alternative, moving towards the future. You take under consideration the capability of your assets, and you align or redesign the money that you want to use to finance your assets accordingly. Not that give me the money and at the end of the year 20%. That is greed. It doesn't help anyone, only the very few people. So if you put this together, then you're going to have something which is the whole algorithm from the economic value added model, which those that go into the cash flow, this corporate to corporate objectives, and then shareholder return. Then here you go to the cost of capital, which is very important. That feeds in there and then gives you the shareholder return. That is all integrated. You're moving towards, as I have it in here, the quantum world transition away from money. What am I saying? The way you invest now is, I need some return because we're still using money, but I will make my return on investment after the assets appreciate over the long haul. It is not like at the end of the year, I want 20%. Now, what happens when you start putting all things together? That capital, it will enhance what we said earlier. Let me see. A return on investment in consciousness.
I don't mind getting these things for you, baby.
Okay.
Janet, you need to mute. You came unmuted.
Okay. Do you see what I'm saying? Those are three things. They all play together. You cannot say, I will concentrate on values, but the company is not aligned, and the people that go to work in, and the company itself destroys the value system of the people. And on top of it, you're using that kind of capital, which says short-term, high rate of return, which destroys everything. The three play together. What happens here? As we move forward, we're going
Alex,
to... Yes, Alberto.
may I interrupt
Yep.
you again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So just to help everybody come together, because a lot of people may not know what value add means, for example.
Yeah,
right?
I understand.
And the present model, to use your words, the corporations have been greedy.
Yeah.
Which is really why it's difficult for everybody to understand how a corporation could provide any kind of real value to society. But you're proposing a conscience-based corporation that, instead of seeking immediate profits, it seeks to create that collective cohesiveness that you just earlier described, get everybody come in and join and being able to achieve personal goals as well as corporate goals. And then the return will no longer be in the way that it was in the past. In other words, the profits will no longer be done in short term, percentage on how much capital they put in, which is, I agree, is how it is done now. But instead of that, it will be in the appreciation. In other words, the value, the corporation, as it works as a collective. Let's not even call it a corporation. Let's call it a collective.
That's right.
As it works as a collective, it's going to become more valuable to society, more valuable to each individual, and that will then bring that long-term profit or gain that the original capital was seeking. Is that correct?
Perfect. And the financial return will come over the long haul through the appreciation of assets. It is all thought through. And as I said, on this, I bring my personal experience because I witnessed when I say the economy for the country split, I saw it. The economy of the world split, I saw it. And because of this experience, I knew why that was happening. So now, what are we saying here? Oh, we're going to have to reset the economy. Do you hear the word? We're going to have to reset the economy. Yes, the people saying it. Yeah, but now I'm watching. What reset are you going to have? The Newtonian world reset? The quantum world reset? Or the God source, the highest resetting of them all? Which one? I'm waiting. This is all experience now, not philosophy. Now, from here, we go to another block, which is building community with light capabilities, the right capabilities for the region. So that's where you see the legal system is going to be changing into the common law. And the common law, it will be to support the integration of all the blocks, which are all based on vertical and horizontal alignment. The current legal system we have, it doesn't support any of that anyway. So if we are to put all the blocks together, you're going to have the academia that produces the skill set. Also, new technologies, which they go into the incubator of technologies, and somehow they need to be scaled up, which we do not know how to do. Develop and attract the skillful workforce, which you develop, and I describe it how to do it. Engage and attract the right employers, and I describe the new architecture for the enterprise. Attract the right capital, and fund the ownership structure for profitable growth, which I describe that as well. Comparison of the old and the new architecture of the enterprise, and here building a community with the right capabilities of the region. That's where you're going to be moving away from the current legal system into common law, which is going to support all of the other blocks. Now, from there, you go into the leadership models. The leadership models and the CEOs, all of those people, they will function very differently because they will be managing the organization energetically as we move into the future. In other words, they're going to manage the vertical and horizontal alignment of any company or the company they're trying to manage. Mind you, the energy on Earth is always traveling vertically and horizontally. Okay? Those types of CEOs, we don't have them. They have to be developed in order for them to do a job like this. The emphasis on money, it will no longer be there. And I describe the method by which those things, it will help us to start moving away from the greed to no end. How much they need to have, I do not know sometimes. You see what I'm saying? Into a system which is going to be less and less and less on money, more on donations, and more on a collaborative effort of individuals, which is all based on vertical and horizontal alignment on the individual level. Now, on the top of it, we have to clean up the soil, the water, and the air, because as you very well know, our situation is not exactly pleasant. All of those elements, they are polluted. Now, you're going to go into what I call the highway of choices, because now you cannot push people to go somewhere else they cannot even see. They have to decide on their own. That's where the value system is very important. On a day-to-day basis, here is the highway of choices. We're going through all kinds of information hit us. We change our minds multiple times a day. We jump up and down, and the moment you jump up and down, you jump in a timeline, so you're going to different earths. So there is a position created out there which is called the timeline commander. His whole job is to manage the timelines as we move forward. Otherwise, we're going to have chaos because the earth is splitting anyway. There is a percentage that's going to move forward, it's going to do all of this work. But the great majority of people, I do not know that percentage, they will stay behind. There's nothing wrong. They chose. That's what this says. You choose where you're going to go. Nobody's going to force you. Okay, now from there, we go to a three-legged stool that everybody wants to put any concept into a three-legged stool. In here, you have individual, vision, and mission statements, the value system we discussed. In here, you have alignment, the tasks with the corporate goals. And the third leg is the energy of capital used. All the three, not one, but all three together. It will produce the ascension process by which we're going to be moving forward. Now, where are we now? And I need to show you this. And I have to say that I rely heavily on Alberto's work. Segment number 5, when he talks about education, he's done a wonderful job there, I might admit. Then I capitalize on the human emotions. He even uses the waveforms on his cover page. And then on segment number 9, when he's talking about meditation. That was the foundational and reference point for the framework, if you will, for me to jump forward into something like this. That's a destination. Did I understand it all correctly? It took 30 years for me to get the experience, trying to understand, verify results, and the most difficult thing was to write it down in a cohesive way and then translate it. And I believe Wendy told me about it's much clearer now than 2 years ago. I was saying the same thing, but I was using different words and the points they were not coming across. So hopefully in the last 2 years, more clarity, it has been brought down to the planet Earth. In here, where are we? Alberto says, oh, the Newtonian world's going down. And no, stop it. I mean, everything that I described to you, he says, this is it. Don't waste any time to fix anything. You won't be able to succeed. Let it drop. So now we come down here and the truth surfaces. But again, everybody interprets it their way. That's my truth. That's your truth. That's yours. But we cannot agree. And that is friction. And it is by design, if I may add, to keep us where? Here. You can call it subjective truth. I think Alexa gave us a different word to describe the same thing in the past. Fine. Now I hear some lawyers that they're saying perceptual diversity. We're dressing it up with ice cream. So the powers to be, or whoever wants us down here, divided, arguing, and as a result of that, not to be able to move forward. I made an effort in here to start translating from quantum field down to here in order to give us a structure, an architecture, which is not mine. I'm not that smart. It was given. In order for us to, as groups, to start moving forward towards rebuilding. Now, the rebuilding in here, it is, I have to emphasize it. That's why I wrote it down earlier. What happens here is this: rebuilding civilization and social order in a way that the most people have not anticipated. There are millions and millions of starseeds. They are already here. I know this for a fact. They came here at the end of October of 2021. Millions for this very moment. This, it goes beyond going out and repairing houses, bridges, commercial buildings after tornadoes, hurricanes, or earthquakes. It is something which is of monumental proportions. The earth shifts to another frequency, and you have human beings on the top of it to facilitate the process of change. Is a privileged life to have? Now I would say yes. A long time ago, I was very unhappy when I was in the middle of everything. Now,
we're about 55 minutes in, Alex.
okay. I think I'm close to the end in here. So, Blaine gland, it's closed. That's why we're here. Somebody wants it to be closed. How do you do this? Aluminum, it's in the air. Glyphosate, toxicity, fluoride, Wi-Fi. Combine them together, what happens? The third eye closes down, which is our direct connection with the source, with the divine. Who does it and why? Those are questions for you to answer. I have my own answers. What I did try to describe is how we're going to start be moving in that direction. I do believe, and this is why I wanted Maria here tonight, I do believe that the vertical and horizontal alignment, it has to occur down at the DNA structure. The vertical alignment, it's memory recovery, personal, inward, sovereign, connected to the gate of self. Horizontal alignment, contextual awareness, how one piece relates to other. It travels the plane of experience rather than ascending a depth. It allows grit mapping in the field of shared constructs and collective learning. That's where the learning is, in the collective alignment. Now, when the intersection point occurs, and this is the cross is here, is not religion, it's a spiritual concept, where the vertical alignment and the horizontal alignment at the DNA level does occur. At that point, learning is no longer external, no memory internal. They become one harmonic. That's how we all come together, which is the idea of oneness. Okay? And
Is that the 0 point through the heart, Alex?
yeah, that's exactly that.
Just like our video.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's my presentation. I am so grateful that an opportunity like this actually was given to me after such a long, long, treacherous path. I never thought that there would be anybody interested in, and certainly it will not be an audience, but there is an audience, and I'm here to help them. And the latest that I receive from the industry is I thought Generation X, it was there for whatever reason is to plug a lawn and all of that stuff. There is a new term, quiet crunching, which just came out and is reflective on Generation X. What are they saying? We are not fulfilled. Oh, you're not fulfilled. Of course, fulfillment has everything to do with the alignment. And if you're not aligned with yourself, and if you're aligned with a company, or if you're trying to align yourself with your own goals and company messes you up, then no wonder you're not fulfilled. That produces the following thing. They're extremely fearful. They cannot sleep well at night because they are fearful that can be laid off tomorrow, and AI is going to take over their jobs. So you have Generation X, you have the millennials, and you have Generation Z. By the year 2028, that is 98% of your workforce. Are we going to have a workforce in this country or not? What is it? This is where we're at now, and I believe the time for change, it's here. Can we do it? Now, I also talk to the people that have humanitarian projects, and I emphasize to them very carefully, if there is funding for your project, you're going to go out and hire people. The people you're going to hire, they're going to have a resume. They have education, they got it from the Newtonian world, and they have experience all from the Newtonian world. When you bring them into your humanitarian project, because the humanitarian project is a startup, it's supposed to go organically and it's supposed to scale up in order to create the new civilization. What do you think these people will do for you? And this is why they freeze, because they start understanding the point. Other things have to happen to lift the humanitarian projects off the ground, and not knowledge from the Newtonian world, because you can start, you can move it forward, you have some results, but in reality, you're not building the new world. You're repeating the old world, starting a new cycle. Extreme caution is necessary.
Okay, so
Can I congratulate? Can I congratulate Alex, Wendy?
please.
So, Alex, congratulations. This is very insightful, and if even if we don't have a large audience right now, the video will live in perpetuity. I love the fact that you used your three-legged stool to depict the radical paradigm shift in the way of thinking. In the past, we took capital and we put it on an altar. You know, we looked at it as a god. And what you're doing there now is putting any capital as support for the collective and for the individuals. And that, of course, presents a new type of corporation that is it's much more organic, and it's also much more flexible. And like you're saying, it can work for the humanitarian projects because it's no longer cold and detached.
That's
You know,
right.
so congratulations, and I can see that this can work as as you're describing, which is building a society around it. Thank you.
I, I, I am very grateful to you, very grateful to Winnie that published your work, which I heavily relied upon it. And I mentioned the segments by which I rely upon in order to start not presenting this whole new ecosystem in here. The two go together. To go from one to the other, human emotions, it's of extreme importance. And I think the individual value system and the alignment with the corporate goals and then mixing the two, the mapping the two, it is the starting points. We're going to have to work on the capital, and that is a very much bigger undertaking. Thank you. I'm extremely grateful.
It seems to me that I'm just putting in my 2 cents worth here. The people that are already entrenched, like generation, some millennials, and certainly the X and above, there's a lot of fear. They're still bought into the system. Everyone's miserable. No one wants to do it. Everyone sees the truth of everything that you just said, but they don't know what to do about it. And they have all these bills and responsibilities. But there's, you know, they're not going to, and they're going to hold on, you know, the corporations, as long as they can, with that fear element that we're all carrying, and they don't want to change and all that. But we're all getting older and we're all getting fed up and this and that and everything. They don't have a choice. And as you said, Gen Z is like, F that, because they'll make coffees before they'll live like that. So, and you said all these new kids coming in, they're going to be even more wired to the new systems. So it's going to happen sooner or later. It might be a really rough ride to get there, but it's happening. It's already happening. There's no option. And people will find a way to flip it fast when they see a system that works like yours, because the show must go on. So I think it's perfect, Alex. It's perfect. And I know how long you've been carrying this, and I know how much you've been beaten down, including by me. I'm a pain in the ass. I love you. It's like we're family, you know. But bravo. Thank you. Yeah. Really good.
I would like to leave you with this, and please remember it for a long time. In peace, in love, as in agape, and you know what that is, and in oneness. That's where our DNA strength comes in.
Beautiful. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything they need to add or any questions for Alex before we close out? If you do, come forward. Go ahead and ask. Okay. So
just to read from the chat. So Rosemary says, thank you, Alex. Very interesting. Arlene said, thank you, Alex. And Mark says, thank you, Alex. Sorry, came in late. There was a family emergency. So our thoughts are with you, Mark. Hope everything's okay.
Yeah.
You know, Wendy, perhaps, I don't know if we fully described who Alex is. People need to understand that he's an eminence. I mean, he's experienced in what he's done through his life. You know what I mean? So I don't know if you want to add. I know you mentioned some of that in your short invitation, but this is really a privilege because I come from the spiritual side of things. Of course, I have an experience as an executive, but you know, Alex is someone very special.
I'm extremely grateful to my family. All of that happened because of who I married. That's it. All the credit goes to her.
Gina is pretty special. I met his family. They're very, very special. They are a very, very nice family. And Alex is coming from the heart, you know. He's like way up here when he talks, and sometimes it's really hard to communicate. We're friends, and I struggle sometimes with the concepts, but he comes from the heart. And no matter what, no matter how many times he gets punched and he's taken a lot of hits, he comes back ready to do the work, ready to build something new, and there for the kids. He loves Gen Z more than anyone I know. I was at his house working on projects, you guys. And you know what? He's up until 10, 11, 12, helping these kids online, making sure that they get it, going above and beyond. Nobody does that. He does everything for the kids, and he does not have to. It's because he really cares. So yeah, it's good. Thank you for pointing that out, Alberto. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up. And for now, thank you, Alex. Again, amazing. Thank you, Alberto, for helping clarify everything. And next Friday, the last Friday of September, which is the 26th at 7 p.m., we're going to totally switch gears. We have a very, very gifted psychic medium named Deb who's going to come in. I'm not sure how we're going to structure it. She's going to tell you that some really amazing things and bring on probably a guest speaker who can validate some of her predictions. And maybe she'll even do a little reading for someone online, impromptu. So that might be kind of fun. So anyway, we hope to see you. I want to say thank you very much again. It was amazing. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Alexa. Thank you, Alberto. And thank you, all the guests. Have a great night.
Thank you. Good night.